Welcome back to another exciting episode of Sports to Suits, where I highlight former athletes that have done some incredible things, not only in sports, but also in the business community. And I could not be more excited than to have my friend Brian Cunningham joining me today, sharing all of his genius with all of you guys. Brian, thanks so much for joining today.
Oh, thank you. I don't know about genius. We'll see. We'll see how the time goes, but
No,
I'm
it's
happy.
total genius.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor.
Super excited. So I'm going to make sure everything's working appropriately, but why don't you go ahead and just let the audience know a little bit about your athletic background as
Sure.
well as a little bit about your business background too.
Sure. So I grew up playing soccer. Um, what a lot of people don't actually know about me is that golf was my childhood favorite sport. I used to just like watch golf on TV. I admired Tiger Woods growing up, just like everybody else who plays golf. And like golf was my thing. But soccer was my, I wouldn't say what I settled for, but soccer was the sport that I landed on. I loved playing soccer. I guess I grew up with soccer just as well. Following the sport, my uncle played soccer, so that was my first soccer game was watching my uncle play. Fell in love with it then, and so I played soccer, youth club soccer, academy, Olympic development program. Went on and soccer paid for college. Fortunately, very fortunately, I was blessed to go to Howard University for my first 2 years of college and play soccer there, and then I transferred to Virginia Tech and continued my career there. After Virginia Tech, I was very fortunate. I was a part of I guess they say 1% nowadays.
It's like the
I don't know.
1% of the 1%.
Yeah, I guess the one, because I'm like, I don't think I was that good, but it's all good. I was just kidding. No, I had a really good time. I learned a lot. I got to play with some of the best players in the world, and had about a 3.5 year professional career in soccer, traveling all over from Jamaica to New Zealand, California, etc. Um, so yeah, or I guess during soccer, I pursued my passion for business, and I've been an entrepreneur since as a kid. Um, I mean, I made a business out of fundraisers. I made a business out of. I
Tell me
made a
a little
business.
bit about that. Let's like what was your first business?
Okay, so my actual first business, I used to flip sneakers. I was a big sneakerhead as a kid. And so I used to buy sneakers, Jordans, Nikes, etc., and I would get them either at a discount. I would find them in different places. I would find these exclusive finds at Ross or TJ Maxx, but they would be like really good sneakers. So I would buy them, and they'd be significantly lower than what they retailed for, what people were paying at the time, and then I'd flip them to my friends, to my network. Like I guess back then, as a kid, you have friends, you have your friendship circle or whatever, but now it's a network. I established my network from like 15, selling sneakers, and then that got into selling clothes. And I did the same thing. And I used to work at the mall, so I had friends at different stores in the mall that I'd be able to like
Oh, you got
go shop.
discount.
Well, they tell me also like, oh, hey, the stuff is going on clearance, and I get like a heads up, and so like I just go, just buy whatever I could. I don't know. I just had a knack for buying and flipping. So then that then transferred into candy. We used to do candy fundraisers for high school soccer. And so you weren't allowed to sell during school hours. But we thought, these candy boxes make a lot of money for the soccer team. Why not make some money for ourselves? Like, why not? Why not go wholesale candy and then sell it to our friends for like $1, $2, depending on the candy. We had premium stuff too. Like we would sell Airheads and yeah. So that was another business of mine. But those are like all like lemonade stands, I guess, compared
Where did
to
that come from? Like,
um
where was your family? Like a family of entrepreneurs? Like, where did that come from?
my dad did try. My dad made an honest and committed attempt while relocating our family from New York to Virginia. Like my parents, I guess I would be first generation. I was the first in my family to be born in the United States. So, my dad raising the family, relocating the family, he did start a business. He wanted to start a tow truck, a towing company in Virginia Beach. And when I was a kid, I watched that. I remember us having the flatbed in the driveway, knowing nothing about it. It was turned off, but I would mess with it and I would act like I'm towing cars, like I'm moving freight in and out or whatever. Like I used to just play, business back then. I think, and I haven't shared that with like a lot of people, but when I really, really meditate on it, like when I spend time meditating, where did this entrepreneurial desire come from? It came from watching my dad start a business, and it didn't work out. He ended up closing the business, but he made a really good attempt at starting a tow truck company and brought a partner in, put his own money into it. So I think watching that as a kid really stemmed it, and that was when I was like 7. I want to say like 7, 8 years old. I was really young. And so like just like acting and building businesses and stuff. He also worked for a very big corporation. He worked for Con Edison. So seeing how he would navigate through his workday with files, and he had a laptop and all that stuff, I just kind of got to observe him in a business setting. And I think that's where I think that's what stemmed or seeded the entrepreneurial spirit in me.
So did he involve you in any of these activities? Like, were you just observing, or did he actually like involve you in some of the business activities?
No, like I never worked for my dad, but I did go to the office. Like I would see where he worked at Con Edison. He would take me to different locations. The tow truck company, we went to the office there. I got to see all the stacks of paperwork and all the crazy stuff that goes on. It's like, so like I got to observe, but up close. And living in Virginia, my dad was still working in New York, so I got to, like growing up, he would commute, spend the weekdays in New York and then come down on just the weekends for a lot of my youth life. So or my childhood life, I guess you could say. So getting to watch him still have to work on things like that man would burn the candle on both ends, working a full-time, job, which oftentimes required more than 40 hours. And then to still have the energy to come home to Virginia and try to get a business off the ground, knowing how taxing that can be. I really admired it.
So parents, if you are listening out there, like expose your kids, even at a young age, because it plants that seed. Like it gives them the opportunity to even be exposed to something like greater than what they're involved in. And they process that. Like everything that you're saying is based on memories that you have of your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, and I'm not a parent, God willing, one day I will be. But I would absolutely teach my children not just the results of what I have or what we have as a family, but the process, a little bit of what it takes. And they'll value, more than the things, they'll value the character that it takes, the building of character, the adversity, the resilience. Like you expose your kids to that early, then at least, not to say it desensitizes them from the world, but it kind of like properly prepares them for what's to come. And they know how to like emotionally compose themselves while going through some of life's hardest challenges of obtaining, a successful business or something like that. I think
And failing forward, like you
yeah,
mentioned that your dad wasn't able, like it wasn't successful, but like you watched that whole process, and like
yeah,
life is about adversity. Like we don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work, but at least
absolutely.
taking that opportunity, like diving into it, regardless of whether or not it works out or not, is like so key.
That's what it is. It's faith, because you don't really lose. Like if you ever talk, or if anybody were to ever talk to my dad about his business, like he doesn't have that like, woe was me, I lost a lot of money or whatever. Like he's never down and out about it. He talks about it was an experience. He talks about what he learned, and it's like, even when things don't work out, when you have that type of mindset, you don't really ever lose. You just kind of like, oh,
well, you
okay.
learn, like you
Exactly.
take an opportunity and you learn. Like it's all about this life is all about learning and like getting
Absolutely.
exposed to new things, trying new things. Like I've had some amazing conversations with some of the most brilliant people on the planet. They don't know everything. Like
I think that's like, that is why I feel that's at least my idea. My theory is that the smartest people don't stop learning. They're not focused on results. Like they're not looking to know everything. They're just looking to know the next thing. And if you keep that, like, that mentality of just wanting to learn, it takes the focus off of what you know, and it which is past tense, and it puts the emphasis on the future, which is all we live for. So one second for me. I
So
hope nobody
true,
comes in here.
Lisa.
I'm
Like
at a golf club,
so
by the
true.
way, so I'm totally doing this in the conference room. I'm gonna try to go somewhere quiet. I
You're
hope you don't.
totally good. Like,
Okay, good.
and that's, that's another thing. Like, Brian, like, talk a little bit about perfectionism because I would imagine, like, as an athlete, one of the biggest challenges, at least that I faced, was like that always striving towards perfectionism. And like, it is, in my opinion, such a hindrance, right? Because you won't take the additional steps, you won't continue to fail forward, you won't do these things because you're always focused on perfectionism. So like, has that been a challenge for you as well?
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, you can.
Let's talk about that.
I'm like, preach, girl, preach. Yeah. It totally. If you're, I mean, okay. There is a point in time. Here's the thing: perfectionism. To absolutely say that perfectionism, and this is my theory, right? So this is just my theory. To say that perfectionism is a hindrance, I would not say that that is completely accurate. I think there's a cost benefit. Like there's a curve where it pays to be a perfectionist and then it peaks. And like any other wave, there's a trough. There's if you allow perfectionism after the point where it's profitable, then you start breaking even again. And then the perfectionism, because nothing in life stays the same, eventually, like opportunities, like, you get to the peak of your perfectionism where it pays off, but then that's where it starts to get to the point of hindrance. Opportunities are passing you by. So that's why you don't stay at the top. Like that's why you go down to the bottom and perfectionism starts to hurt you because when you do that, opportunities pass you by. That's
Yep.
dipping you. You end up, excuse my language. You half-heartedly take on opportunities, but you don't give it your best effort. So that's going to drop you. So it's like perfectionism can help you and it can hurt you. I think on the side of being not being optimistic about the future, um, the fear of failure, but the willingness to do it anyways. Not being happy if like in golf, they say like pros are looking to hit 5 good shots all around. They touch the ball anywhere from 63 to 72 times, and only 5 of them are like pure. But that doesn't hinder them from scoring. They still play a very good round of golf, right? So it's kind of like in life, that seeking perfection, it can help you really narrow your misses. You know what I'm saying? And after that, after you learn what those misses are, and then you have to take action. You got to kind of put the perfectionism down. But being a perfectionist is going to get you from spraying it all over the place to now keeping it in the fairway and on the green. And, that's symbolic to life. It's, being a perfectionist. When somebody says, "Oh, good work," you're like, "Really though? Was it really? Like, was it really? I did it last night." And it's like,
But it's always striving to be one step better. Like, and it's not
exactly.
necessarily about perfectionism. It's about, one, like, even if it's just 1% better, like it's always
Yeah,
how can I do this 1% better? And Lisa said
exactly.
something that was really interesting in the chat. She said the process, not the outcome, right? Like we're
Exactly.
so focused on the outcome and striving towards like this amazing outcome, which is, that's a great vision. It's a great opportunity, but you've got to focus on the process and always put one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. And yeah, and so putting one foot in front of the other, there comes a time where trying to be perfect, because it's not going to be perfectly in front of the other, you don't even take the step, and that's where it starts to hurt you. And that's when you got to, that's when the realization that perfection does not really exist.
So we got Rex chiming in here saying great golf analogy. So I want to talk about this because okay, so you played professional soccer, and then what happened? Like what caused you to leave professional soccer?
I woke up one day and was like, man, I don't really think I can continue to do this. And it wasn't the same. I don't think I can do it that, had me nervous the night before my first professional tryout. It wasn't that. It was you're coming back from injury again. Your contract with your team is coming to an end again. And, do you really want to fight this again? And the answer was like, nah, I don't. And that's as sad as that may sound. There's a lot of positive that came out of that because I matured a lot. I started becoming who I am today. I was able to go to bed at peace with myself. Playing soccer, I started to feel like, man, who am I trying to prove something to, myself or to all of those people who? And there were a lot of people that invested their time, their energy, support. I had a lot of people that supported my soccer career, and it just really became a time where I was like, who am I really doing it for? Because Brian doesn't really want to go to practice today, and I'm a guy that loves practice. So when those thoughts started creeping in, I kind of said, maybe it's time to, don't quit. Let's see how it goes. Continue. If you're going to show up to practice, then work. Show up to work. And then I eventually just made the decision that it was time.
So did you start considering, because you are like just entrepreneur to a T, like did you start considering what life looked like outside of sports prior to actually making that, or did you just
yeah.
What did you do? Like, were you like, okay, I'm just gonna quit and figure it out, or were you like, I'm gonna start putting the wheels in motion prior to my career actually ending on the soccer field?
Yeah, so that's where that's where because I know that first half of the story is kind of like, wow, that's really grim. That's actually where the positives started coming. So before soccer was over, I started like consulting. Started a consulting business, not a company, not anything. It's just me personally. Again, leaning on my network. I knew guys who did have companies or were forming companies, guys who had businesses, and their businesses had issues. And I would talk to them on the personal side about it. And, so they would totally come to me as a friend because they knew I had business savvy. And I was like, wait a minute. Well, first of all, this is kind of what I went to school for because we learned about consulting. But because my mind was so much in like soccer gear, it was hard, to like really change and be about business. But then I started looking more and more into it. I was like, wait a minute, this is exactly what consultants get paid for and charge hundreds of dollars an hour to give advice and to put things in place and to refer people to whatever solutions. So yeah, I started doing that while I was playing soccer because it was only a couple hours a day, make a couple $100 per hour. So it was like I didn't need to work that much.
But you found an additional income stream prior to actually making that transition out.
Yeah, I did. So I started my business, and that's what I did after practice, before practice, whatever gaps throughout the day, even if I had 2 practices a day. And then I just started selling. I contacted some of my friends that were working with companies as like sales agents, just direct selling, and just get on the phone.
How did that go?
Just give me the phone, man. I was so hot on the line. It was like Wolf of Wall Street. Like I remember just going crazy in my room with my laptop, like trying to sell because the commissions, it was like high ticket sales. So cars, real estate, stuff like that. You don't have to sell a whole lot. You can have a very comfortable living just by being active for a season. So anyways, yeah, that's how I started, and I just started selling. Finally incorporated a company, and then eventually. So the bright side of it was I started making money in business, and then I was like, soccer was soccer was on a downward slope, just with being injured and stuff. So I was like, man, I don't need to be here. I remember just one day being at practice doing like sprints and just being like,
You're like, where's my notebook? I can go cold call some folks and make some money rather than do these sprints.
I was like, I could if I would have been at home on the phone at 8 o'clock, I could have talked to these 3 people. I would have made this much. And so it's like, how much am I getting paid for my time here? Okay, 2-hour practice. Here's my monthly, 10 practices a week. Yeah, the math is way better on the other side. So then I started looking into my business, and eventually business supplemented my income, and then it took over my income, and then soccer became a hobby.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because you have another hobby, and you and I share in this. We both love golf. So So you went from sports to business, and you've got a very successful business career, but now you're incorporating sports
Thank you.
again into what you're doing. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I appreciate the note about the successful business. It's still a baby. We're still working on it, nurturing it every day. It takes a lot to raise, but I'm very proud of how far we've come so far. But we've got so much more to do. At least it may sound like the trajectory is to go to the moon. It is, and so I just feel like we have so much ahead of us. But I guess back to sports in business. I've found the golf bug. So
And
I
it's a
want to.
great bug to find in business. So if you're listening out there and you're not playing golf, it is a great opportunity, even from a sales perspective, to just get people on the course and
Yeah,
stand out.
if you hit your ball dead into the trees, there's a network there. So, like, golf is such a business
90% of the network is
exactly.
there.
As a matter of fact, you're way more likely to find people to connect with in the trees than you will in the fairway, because the guys, in the fairway, we don't talk too much. But no, like, I don't know. I wanted to play golf as a kid, like I said earlier. I didn't get the chance to. I wanted to play high school golf. Went out for the golf team. Got absolutely no support. Um, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I feel like it could have been a way better entry into the sport or introduction to the sport than what I had. So I ended up not playing golf. I was so hurt because, again, like since I was 6, 7, watching golf on TV. So trying to play golf at 13. And having informally, I had my grand uncle actually gave me a set of Ping I3 oversized irons, the green dots, and I would mess with those, but I had no idea what I was doing. So, anyways, after golf didn't work out in high school, I put the game down. I was so hurt that I didn't even watch golf. I was just put it down for all these years. And then 2018, like the end of 2018, I remember I was flipping through channels. It was like a long day of work. I was going through something in my personal life that just had me thinking a lot. And I was flipping through channels, and I don't know what happened. It's like this twinkle. I don't know. I remember getting chills. I'm getting chills right now. Think about it. I was flipping through channels. Golf comes on the TV, and I ended up watching it until I fall asleep. I forget what it was. I want to say it was WGC. It was WGC Mexico. That's what it was. Dustin Johnson was killing it. I remember Dustin. Yeah, like it's coming back to me. Yeah. So, anyways, ever since that.
And I can just see the joy in your face. Like you're telling the story, and you're just like radiating. So okay.
Thank you. Yeah, because it's like I'm thinking about it now. I get so excited about golf, but yeah. So I was watching WGC, and then I decided, I'm gonna make a comeback. I got a business. My business is doing well. I have time to be able to at least go to the driving range, chip, putt. I can do these little like golf 1 hour lessons, whatever. Whatever needs be. I go to Golf Galaxy, January 2019, and buy a set of clubs, Callaway Apex irons, used, and just start getting after it. And here we are now. I'm practicing. I've been putting together a swing, what I feel comfortable to call my golf swing. And I'm drilling every day. I'm playing rounds of golf with buddies. I'm networking, and I'm leveraging my connections in business to make friends in golf, and reciprocating that back and forth. So
that takes courage. So if anybody is listening out there that had like a childhood passion, like mine was gymnastics, and I got out of it for so long. And then I just started coaching about a year or so ago just to get my feet on the mat. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are, where you're at in your life. If there is something that drives joy and passion, find a way to make it happen. Don't put that on the back burner.
Can we talk about that, by the way? Because I'm inspired.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, I guess it's my turn to ask a question now, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go.
I want to know about the gymnastics. because gymnastics is, I admire, well, anybody who plays an individual sport, like golf, tennis, gymnastics, track and field, anything that relies on just you when there's no scapegoating a team, it takes such mental fortitude. So I want to know about your gymnastics story. That's what we haven't talked about.
Nobody's
Yeah.
turned this on me yet, and
Oh,
you're the
man.
first one.
It's the first one.
No, so gymnastics was an outlet. You know, I was a wild kid. I was jumping off of furniture. Loved being in the gym. My parents got me in the gym when I was about 6, and it was just like ultimate passion for me. I trained since then from, I mean, literally every day, hours and hours a day. And I mean, I had a very successful career. Hey, this guy introduced us.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that. Let's turn this
Come
back
on, man.
on you.
You can't just, no.
No, come join us.
She was sharing her beautiful gymnastics story.
Oh my gosh, stop.
I'm going to have to take you off of I'm sorry, I have the AirPods. This is probably, this is definitely a unique podcast. Oh, let's see. We're going to take hopefully the quality remains the
type it in
same.
here too. So truly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you guys. So I want to put this back on y'all because this is something that is so powerful and that every single person needs to hear that is listening to this.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. I'm going to have to put the AirPods back in. Greg's in a step, but I'm going to listen to your story. Yeah. He just wanted to come say hi and bomb the podcast. I guess, is that a first as well?
It is a first. We've had lots of firsts. So I'm going to talk about this story because I think it's so freaking critical for people to understand this. So Gregory Renfro, shout out to him. So Greg was listening to the podcast and was like, sent me a message and said, hey, I've got a friend, Brian Cunningham, that needs to be on your show. And he just reached out. We had never talked before. And created and opened the door and that opportunity for us to have this conversation. So talk a little bit about, and I'm going to throw this back on you. Maybe we'll do a separate interview and you can interview me about gymnastics. But let's talk about how important and critical networking is, and not just reaching out to people to say, hey, what's going on, but creating strategic networks that are always looking for opportunities on your behalf and helping connect you to people that make sense. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're on mute. There you go. No. Now we can. We're good.
Okay, perfect. You know, I feel like the technical difficulties definitely dropped the ball on that one, or else we would have got the story.
Cool. This is what live is about. Not perfect.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's Greg's, but we'll just put it on Greg. Anyhow, no, the network. Okay, so I have this another theory, I guess. Your listeners are gonna be like, this guy with his theories. Anyways, so my mom always used to say, in a village you have a lawyer, a doctor, the Indian, the chief. That's resemblant of our communities. That's what networking should be about. Not just to build connections for your own selfish benefits, but to be able to reciprocate. That should be the origin of networking. That's how I network. Oftentimes, I just posted on my Instagram the other day, looking for a car detailer. And what do you know? Replies to my story. Boom. That's how the network pays off. Now I've gotten in touch with somebody who can come by with a mobile detailing company and can wash the cars. Perfect. Networking pays off there. Same thing. Need a general contractor remodeling the bathroom. Post a story. And the story gets replies. Hey, so-and-so is a general contractor. So-and-so does bathroom remodeling. That's how networking pays off as well. So I encourage people to network based on the functions of their life, the things that they do, their hobbies, different areas that they dabble in. So, just like in high school, classic model, we have chess club, Spanish club, reading club, women's club, knitting club, wood shop club, whatever.
Whatever it may be.
I don't even know if they still have wood shop club, but so.
If not, they need to bring it back.
That would be really cool, right? But, even like fashion, I was a part of a fashion organization, marketing, I was in DECA, a lot of like extracurricular things that had nothing to do with my direct purpose, soccer and business. However, those then became industries that I invested in and worked in. Fashion, I got into fashion. And it's like, so it may not have been business functions what I directly focused my attention on. However, there is a derivative benefit because I got into the fashion industry by providing the business services that I know and networking with people that I met. So, I encourage people to just, if you're a golfer, you're going to go out in a foursome. I encourage people play. If you want to get over nerves, play in a random weekend foursome. Just go to a golf course. Don't tell anybody who you are or where you're going. Go play. Just go play with people, get to know them, and play well. You obviously want to hit good shots, stuff like that. That's kind of like that's networking. You may end up meeting two very successful stockbrokers and their attorney friend, and you never know what that could stem into. You never know what could branch off.
So let's talk about, okay, you're killing it on Instagram. You are. And I think it's really important for people to understand. I struggled with getting Instagram. In fact, I didn't get Instagram until a couple of months ago because I'm like, I'm too old for Instagram. Instagram's not for me. But I want to talk about the importance of a social presence. And that's something that I really latched on to when somebody was like, Amanda, it's not necessarily about you sharing all these things. It's about a social presence and people getting to know you.
Yep.
And what you're interested in so that network can help. So I want you to talk a little bit about just like how you grew your network, how you even maybe leveraged yourself as an athlete to grow that network. And what are your thought processes around social media presence?
So I guess first about social media presence, it's everybody's on their phones. You walk down the street, you take account of how many people are on Instagram just in that time that you're walking down the street. I can guarantee you will find at least 5 people. If you give yourself, you'll find a new person every minute. Like I would pay that bet. So it's extremely important. Instagram is not just Instagram, but social media. They are pretty much extensions of search engines. People go on Instagram to look up a company, just like how they go on Google to look up, a business or a restaurant or a person.
So you would recommend if somebody's listening that's a business owner, small, medium, enterprise, whatever it may be, like they've got to have a social media presence.
Absolutely, like undoubtedly. The social media world is where everything is headed. Just like how I remember back in the day when people would talk about TV apps and like the old way of TV is going to die and there's going to be a new. It's the same thing with the web, the internet. Things are moving towards every company. Instead of going to their website, they're encouraging you to use their app. So it's like social media. The fact that it's an app space, get involved, be there. That's where life is happening. And if you not only want to be where life is happening, but you want to make things happen, have a presence. And make your presence felt and grow that presence, because I'm sure everybody has an audience. Everybody knows somebody.
So if you're starting from scratch or you're starting from a very small social media footprint, like how would you recommend that these people or companies go about putting out content that makes sense for their companies? Like I struggled with that as like, okay, do I put, I love gardening, I love sports, I love all these things. And my business, there's a component of that in my business, but like, what do I actually post? Right. So I'm curious your thoughts on, how do you come about like actually developing the social strategy to where it's business centric as well?
I mean, it's going to sound really elementary, but there are 3 rows of Instagram. And people can see a 3x3 grid at any point in time. So I would just say, 3 major areas of your life. If you were to design an Instagram around a concept, if you were to create one central concept for your Instagram and you wanted to branch it off and have an organization profile to your Instagram, 3 rows could be the 3 important areas of your life, or the 3x3 can tell a story. But I would share, most important events, updates, things like that, as it relates to your life. I would, let people know what you're about in your bio. You pull up to somebody's Instagram and they just have a link and you're like, could you at least put what this link is for? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man.
Give a little bit of an insight.
And I'm a culprit of this right now because I've got the link to my website in my bio, and the website's under construction. And I've been going through some technological changes. went to the Apple store and went crazy, and like I'm transferring everything over, and like it's a whole new system for the company and everything. So website's under construction, and I took down the under construction page, the landing page. So kind of my fault in that regard, but regardless, at least I have a description of who I am. Some people don't let you know straight up, what are you about? So I would just, create something like that, because also like algorithmically, like you can also follow hashtag. Now it's ironic. I was talking to my social media manager earlier today because we're getting ready to start getting things back up. And thank you. I don't think I'm booming on Instagram. I don't remember quite what you said. I'm killing it on Instagram.
You are. I mean, you've got 20-something thousand followers.
I don't think we've seen anything yet.
So I love that. But once again, like for somebody that's just started out, like I've got a decent following on LinkedIn because that was my primary network. But like Instagram, I was like, I'm too old for this. But like, I look at you and I'm like, man, you're doing amazing. Like there's always people that, you can learn from. So you may only have in your mind 20,000, but I'm like, man, I would love to have 20,000. And you're probably looking at somebody that has what, 1 million or 2 million. You're like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so put it this way, like to grow an abstract following for nothing, that's an ego trip. And I don't believe in that. So I and as a matter of fact, like I had to put the ego down because, you have these incremental blocks of success along your journey, and you start to feel like, you get your head above water and all of a sudden you're gloating. And it's like, no, put that down. And I stripped my Instagram of everything that I felt was not of me today. And I've restarted the process of building my Instagram. So I would say, to have 2 million followers, but to not have 2 million people be able to recognize you if you're walking down the street at the grocery store, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. And unless you're pushing a cause, what do you need more people to follow you than your friends? I'm looking for a following not based off of me. I'm looking for a following of my businesses that then translate to benefits to me and to others. And obviously, if they're a patron of my business, then they're being facilitated in some way. So it's a win-win. So the following is really not about the following, but it's more so the purpose behind it, the intentions, which are to share my story, to share my message, and to provide services to people. So, just going through that whole process for a person starting an Instagram, build it genuinely with that. What are you looking to push? What is your cause? What is your purpose? What are your intentions? What can you tell us about yourself? And leave it up to the people to figure out or to decide for themselves if they want to join that cause. So as crazy, as basic, and as elementary as that may sound, that's the best piece of advice I could give somebody growing their social media.
Well, and what's really interesting to me, and this is just really resonating in our conversation. So to me, like one of the biggest challenges with athletes is comparison. Like you're conditioned to compare yourself against other people or to outperform other people. And in this space and in business, like one of the most valuable things that I've learned is it's not necessarily about comparing myself against something else. It's comparing against what I did yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Have I taken one foot in front of the other? Have I made the impact that I'm looking to? And so that's another thing that I see in social media is comparison. Like it's not about comparing yourself. It's more or less about, are you making the impact that you're looking to make and leveraging the platform to do that?
That's such a touchy subject because I just feel like societally, I think one of the members of the audience said something earlier that's been resonating with me since they've said it. And it's focused on the process, not the results. And I think I've been calling it microwave society. We live in a microwave society where people, they want their filet mignon, medium rare, but they want it now. And it's like, okay, well, even if it's quick to sear filet mignon, but the way to get the steak the way you want it is to let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes or so prior to putting it on the grill. People don't want to wait. They don't want to do that. If they could invent something that would thaw the meat faster than it sitting at room temperature, they would, to save them, even if it's 5 minutes. So it's like societally we're going through that, where people are comparing themselves to others, and like that's one of the worst things a person could do, honestly.
I see it in my daughter. Like I just see it in the generation of like the constant comparison, and it's hard as a kid, and especially if you're an athlete. Like she's a travel soccer. So like it's hard to even.
I'm sorry, Greg. The attack of the Greg is back. I'm sorry. No.
It's totally cool.
Sorry, I'm back.
You're good. No, but
okay.
like I think that you're right. Like it's the microwave. Like we've got to stop that thinking
Yeah.
and like always focus on what is the impact, what are the steps that we've got to take to get to that impact, and like remove all the noise.
Yeah, and I think that if you were to be self-centered about something, then that would be the thing to be self-centered about, not what you want, but where do you want to go? Like if you put it on what do you want, and that's still that's a now thing for yourself. If you put it on something that you don't have yet, it's like, well, how can I get there? And you may find that along the way you meet other people and stuff like that. But I think in terms of being self-centered, your purpose is the one thing to be self-centered about. And if your purpose is what you're focused on,
I
then
love
comparing
that. I
yourself to other
totally
people,
love that.
like that's like again, another golf analogy. There's nothing, whether or not, there's nothing you can do to affect my ball. Only I can affect my ball, right? And so it would make no sense if I hit a good shot for you to be jealous. It makes no sense if I play a draw for you to hit a draw. If the conditions call for a draw and you intended to hit a draw anyways, go for it. But if you're hitting a draw because I'm hitting a draw, now what if you overcook it? Now you hit a hook. Now you're in the water. And that's what happens in our society. We get so caught up looking at what this person has, what that person has. It's like, no, if you focus on your ball, you actually have a way better chance of shooting on your par or in life succeeding. Then
So I want to talk about this because so I want to talk about Greg a little bit again. Greg's going to come back into the conversation. So I want to talk about coaching because this is one thing I get asked often is like, how critical or key is my success into hiring coaches or mentors or whatever it may be. So I know that you have a golf coach,
yeah,
Greg, but I want to talk about your thoughts in regards to coaching in general, because I find that athletes really thrive in an environment where they have coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I was, and I agree with that 100%, even as a person who's self-driven. Like, Greg doesn't wake me up to go to the range in the morning or doesn't have to book a tee time for me to get out and play golf. Like, he doesn't have to do that. But having him there, hitting wedges and trying to dial in a number.
Is it the accountability?
It's the accountability. It's it all stems from accountability. So that's the number one thing at the top. But then from that accountability comes like standards. Like I set a standard for my training. I set a standard for how I carry myself. I set a standard for how many reps. I set a standard. Like there's just like a different standard because I may be grinding away by myself, but having Greg there, I'll hit a shot and he'll say, okay, I want 4 more of those. Whereas, naturally by myself, I may hit 4 of them on my own, but to hear him say, okay, nice shot. Now let me see you do it 4 more times. I'm like, okay, somebody else asking me to do that is another level, it's pressure. So that's where coaching.
It's also like, and in business, this is why I think business coaching is so important. They see something in you that you may not see in
Absolutely.
yourself, right? So like you give 1 rep, one swing, right? You hit 1 good golf ball, but he's like, I know you can hit 4 more.
Yeah. But, and here I am looking back at him like, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'll hit the whole basket and not get 4 more of those. Like, but the willingness, like, because what it does in sight, I may hit 4 more. Now, they may not be the same as the very first one, but if he says, hey, I want you to hit a fade at that and I want it to land there, and I get it somewhere in there, it's like, dude, that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good to be able to do it. And so it allows me to kind of take the focus off of not only what I expect from myself, but what he sees. And I mean, to this day, I tell him on a daily basis, especially on bad days. We had a bad day the other day. I'm like, dude, don't you have something better you could be doing? I'm like, man. Dude, I'd rather be at the grocery store than being out here. Why are you here?
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about that, because in life, like business, like yesterday was one of those days for me. Like I was done. I was like over it, done. I'm usually like the most joyful person, and I was done. Like, help me a little bit about how you overcome that mental piece where you're like, I'm done. I want to throw in the towel. over it, but you can put, most athletes can do this. You condition yourself to say, you know what, one more rep, one more rep, one more rep. So let's talk about that in business. Like when you have a bad day or when something in the office is just like absolutely like you're done, like what do you do about that? How do you get back into a position where you're like, I'm ready to go?
I turn up the heat.
You what?
I turn up the heat, man. I'm like,
physical
all right.
heat? Like, are you talking about the
No,
air
like
conditioner?
I'm talking no.
Oh, wow.
I'm talking about the pressure. I'm like, okay, cool. You wanted to have a bad day on the golf course. You had a bad tournament or whatever. Tomorrow morning, you'll be up at 6. You'll beat the sun to the range, and you will be the first man hitting golf balls on the range. And then you're gonna play. And like that's it for golf. For soccer, I didn't care if it was right after a game. I mean, we'd finish the game at 9:30 p.m. And I'm like, can you give me the bag of balls, please? Because I would miss a shot that I'm like, dude, you're 10 yards outside of the goal. How could you hit it into the goalkeeper's hands? Hit it now tonight at 10 o'clock at night. You're gonna practice how to hit it into spots of the net that the goalkeeper can't get to, or like statistically he shouldn't be able to get to. And you're not going to leave until you get it in your mind, so that way you never kick it straight to the goalkeeper. And that was it for soccer. In business, I do like an internal audit. I will literally pull reports of every aspect of the business. I'll look at all my personnel, and I will do that work. If if something goes wrong in the company, I will take one of the operational tasks that somebody is doing, and I'll ask one of my staff, can I work with you tomorrow? Like, I actually want to grind. I'll grind harder in those times, because the intention is to desensitize myself from that feeling of failure. And it's to get my mind immediately focused on success. And it's to physically put myself through the process. So that's how I handle that.
So in sports, I call this beast mode. In business, I call this leadership. It's totally the same thing, but like you get it. Like you have to find another wheel. Like you've got to figure out how. Sometimes, like for me, I have to step away. Like I know when my bucket's full, I got to step away. I got to take a little bit of space, and then I can come back and I'll hit it harder than I did previously, right? Because you've got to and once again, like, do you find yourself having to take a little bit of space, or do you just jump right in it and you go full blown beast mode?
It really depends. It depends on every single occurrence has a different emotional registry. So that's one of the things I've been working on, is building the emotional intelligence to know, like, okay, Brian, no, don't. The immediate inclination is to go straight into beast mode. I'm like, no, because I won't be dominated. Like, I'm just like, no, this will not. So like
this is the athlete in you, though. This is the competitive athlete.
Exactly. It's literally, it's like, no, run it back. Like, no, what do you mean the game's over? No. Run the clock. It's like the immediate, but sometimes things have an emotional registry or sometimes the damage caused by whatever happened, it'll require you to take a step back, and it'll allow you that taking the step back is what allows you to reposition, re-strategize, refocus. And sometimes I do find if something happens that takes me out, and it has an emotional registry that, okay, you got to work on something that may not be immediately, it can't be resolved immediately. Then those are the times. But 8 out of 10 times, it's like, no, let's go.
Well, and if you want to see the results, you've got to put in the reps. Like, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's sale. Like, in my opinion, every CEO has to sell. Every person in a company needs to sell. Yeah. But like, if you're not picking up the phone and dialing, regardless of what position you're in, like you're not, like, you've got to set the tone and the stage.
And I mean, I've listened, I know, I've spoken to, I've received advice from some of the best people in sales. Some of the world's most notable entrepreneurs. I've had conversations, and they're like, dude, you hear no more than yes, way more of the time. It's just, did you pick up the phone the next time? Like, if you're going to let that no stop you from calling or answering the call, just don't do it. Like, it's impossible. The only thing that is impossible is to get a result from nothing. Like, every action has a reaction, right? So how are you going to close a sale if you don't answer the phone.
So if you're listening to this, this is one of my like secret sales tips. Like I'm not a sales coach, but I've done a lot of sales. This is like my secret sales tip. If you get a no, that is a great opportunity to learn every single objection and how to overcome that. If it's a no, it's a no. Learn why it's a no.
Yeah.
Evaluate
If you don't
why
ask,
it's a no.
if you don't ask, the answer is no. So it's like, and then, so what does that tell you about the whole process? The process is learning how to ask.
And it prepares you for the yeses.
Exactly.
Like every single no prepares you for being ready to overcome objections for a yes. Like you're going to get objections regardless of whether or not they say no or yes. Like that will happen. That's business.
Inevitably.
So you leverage the no's to get you to the yeses. Don't give up, like regardless of what you're doing. And I love, Brian, your story about how, you loved golf and you went into soccer and you had this amazing business, like education journey, the business, but like you flipped on the TV and golf came about and you're like, I'm going to dive into this again. Like I absolutely love that because I think adults do a really bad job about fueling their passions and incorporating what actually brings them energy. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Yours is golf, mine is gymnastics. I do love golf. But like
it's the best game, isn't it?
What?
It's the best game ever, isn't it?
So I agree. I can't do gymnastics anymore, but I can definitely golf. But like the moral of this story is like go after your passions. Like
Absolutely.
If it's not something that you can do as a career, then find a way to incorporate it into your life. Like Brian, you've got so much joy. Like you just radiate joy and
thank
energy,
you.
and like you're just such a happy person. Like I love this conversation because you're following what a lot of people don't do, is in incorporating what you absolutely love into your life.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing. Like it's taken takes a lot of courage. Like people have to have courage, and that's why I talk a lot about empowerment as opposed to motivation. And there's nothing wrong with motivation or motivational speakers. I just feel that motivation is kind of like motivation is the multivitamin to the courage and empowerment of proper nutrition. So it's like if you're actually eating your vegetables and your grains in proper proportions and your proteins and eating, then the vitamin is only the motivation is just going to give you a quick surge. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's going to, but if you're relying on the multivitamin, not only are you going to obviously be hungry, but you're never actually going to get the nutrients that you need for proper nutrition. So the courage, that's all intrinsic. That's something that you find within yourself. And, newsflash, it comes from failure. You fail forward, I got plenty of failures under my belt. Like, and I talk to you.
We all do. Everybody does. Like, there's nothing wrong with failing. Like that's
absolutely not.
Nothing wrong.
And it's really funny because Greg and I were playing around the golf the other day. I hit a shot and I duck hooked it, and it's all because of I don't know. It was a bad shot. So, anyways, I said, "Man, it's such a bad shot." He said, "No, it wasn't a bad shot. It just wasn't what was called for at the time." And I found myself under a tree on Monday, and I was like, "It's a really good time to hit that hook." Sure enough,
it was a bad shot. An amazing shot.
It actually helped me recover. Like I hit a great recovery shot. I ended up hitting it from where I was to get it to the rough right by the green. Like I was right off of the fringe to get it there from where I was happy, and I made the up and down, and everything was cool. And that wasn't the shot that was called for the first time I tried to use it. So just, that's resembling a life. It's you got to try that. Those failures, those hooks, learn how to hit them because you may need it. Learn how to hear no. Record the no's that you got. Work on how to ask. And that's with anything. I started a foundation, by the way. I don't know if we talked about it the first time, the Brian Cunningham Foundation. And I really want to emphasize, and I know we're coming up to the end of the time, so I just wanted to drop this, is that, we are looking at uniquely qualified individuals. It doesn't always have to be, and we do have initiatives for inner city, for the less fortunate, for special needs and disabilities, but also for, the people who don't really have as much of a voice. They have quite the voice, but they just don't use it. Adults, people who want to go back to school, but they feel like it's too late. People who are well established in corporate America in their job, but they want to start a business, but they just don't really, like, you have somebody to talk to. You have a resource available to you. And once we get everything with the foundation up and running, I'll be really excited to connect with those people.
So tell me, like, and we're wrapping up on time, but how do people follow your journey? So first off, if they want to inquire about business services or whatever that may be, what's the best way to do that? And then also, how do people individually follow your journey?
Well, thank you. Individually, just email me. My email is, and I hope I don't get a bunch of spam, but I'd love to personally
What's
connect
your
with
Instagram?
everybody.
I'm just kidding.
So
What's
my
the
Instagram,
non-spam? Because I can't promise
yeah,
you won't.
I'm like, man, I know. Well, you do everything you can, but at the end of the day, technology is technology. But no, the Brian Cunningham. So THE Tom Harold Edward Brian Cunningham, my full name. That's my Instagram. Just all one block. So the Brian Cunningham. And then you feel free to reach out to me, BC. So Boy Charlie at thebriancunningham.com. That's the site that's going up in 2022. I'm so excited. And maybe I'm radiating with joy because of all of the potential and the opportunity in front of me. It's so great.
Well, and we'll have to have you back on next year to talk about all that
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
because there's
Yeah, that'd be
nothing
awesome.
more that like totally just brings me joy to just watch like people that have gone from the sports community into the business community and are seeing success. Like it's such a difficult transition. A lot of people don't recognize how challenging it is. And then to see somebody that is just so full of joy and just making such a significant impact, like it, we'll have to jump back on another live, and I'm sure that the
I'd love
audience
that.
would just like absolutely love to hear how that is going and get an update from you.
For sure.
So I'm gonna hold you
I'm
to
looking
that.
forward to that. Yeah, no, like I'm like, wow, she's gonna invite me back. That's awesome.
Well, and for anybody that's joining and continues to join, I can't thank you enough. I host these every Tuesday, usually every Tuesday from 1 to 2 o'clock, where I highlight former athletes and leverage their experience in sports and how they're using that in the business community. And I can't thank you enough. It's been a great conversation. Brian, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to continuing the conversations with you.
Sorry.
Bye.
Somebody just tried to